For this problem, I am going to go over how to get a small data set into your calculator and to have the calculator run some basic statistics. Okay, so for this problem, we're given a sample of annual salaries and thousands of dollars for employees at a company. Okay, and the first thing we want to do is find the sample mean and sample standard deviation. Okay, to get some raw data into your calculator, you're going to want to go to your Stat menu. Okay, so you're going to press your Stat key on the calculator and you'll be given this screen, and your first option will be to edit. Now that is where you will be able to enter data and manipulate that data, similar to how you would work with a spreadsheet. Okay, so you want to hit enter. Okay, and you'll be given a screen of lists. Okay, I want to enter in data into L1. Okay, so I'm going to use my left arrow key and move my cursor over to L1. Your calculator will probably default to that. Okay, so I'm going to enter in the raw data. Okay, so I just type in 40 and then press enter, and then the next item in the data set. Okay, and unfortunately I couldn't find a smaller data set, so please bear with me as I enter in all 13 values. Okay, 38. What's great about using the calculator is if you've noticed, the calculation for the standard deviation by hand is somewhat lengthy, and as we move further in the course, you're definitely going to want to use your calculator to enter data and get basic statistics off of it, because your problems will be multi-stepped and you will not have time on your tests to calculate standard deviation by hand. Okay, so 43, and then my last value is 47. Okay, so if you notice at the bottom of your screen on your calculator, it tells you what item number your data is. So I've entered in 13 values and it's waiting for the 14th value. And I do not have a 14th value, so I'm done. So now I want the calculator to calculate the sample mean and sample standard deviation for me. So I'm going to go back to my Stat menu. Okay, so I'm going to press the Stat key again. Now instead of Edit, I want to go to Calc. So I'm going to use my right arrow key on the calculator, and then I'll get the Calc menu. And my first choice is one variable statistics. Okay, so I want to press choice 1. Now I need to tell it what what list my data is in. Okay, so if you notice right above your number keys in blue on the TI-84, you'll see L1, L2, L3. So you're going to have to hit second and then 1, okay, because I stored my data in list 1. Okay, and then hit enter. And you'll see that the calculator has calculated all of the basic statistics for you. That first choice, or I'm sorry, not choice, but the first value you see, X bar, is the sample mean. And then there's some pieces that you would need if you were going to calculate the standard deviation by hand. In other words, it adds up all of the x's, adds up all of x squared. That next one, S sub x, that is the sample standard deviation. And the one below that, sigma sub x, is the population standard deviation. N is the number of values in your data set, and if you notice to the left of N there's a down arrow, so you can move your cursor down using your down arrow on your calculator to get more values. Okay, so the minimum value was 34. Now remember, our data set represents thousands of dollars, so that minimum value is actually 34,000. That next value you see is your first quartile, and remember the quartiles, the first quartile separates the lower 25% of the values from the upper 75% of the values when the data set is put in order. And then it calculates the median, which is also the second quartile. Remember, the median is the exact center value of a data set. And then the third quartile, which separates the lower 75% from the upper 25% of the data set that is put in order. And then you see the maximum value is 53. Okay, so your calculator will give you a lot of pieces for your homework. Okay, so that is answering part A, the sample mean and sample standard deviation. The sample mean, I'm using my up arrow to get back to the top of the screen. The sample mean is 41.69 and the sample standard deviation is 5.99. To answer part B, okay, we're given, or we're asked to find the new sample mean and sample standard deviation if each employee is given a $1,000 raise. Okay, so instead of having to input each value all over again, okay, we could go ahead and have the calculator add 1 to each value in the data set. Okay, remember the data set is given in thousands of dollars, so if they're given a $1,000 raise, we're just going to be having the calculator add 1 to each value in the data set. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the Stat menu, and then I want to go back to Edit. Remember, Edit is where you enter and manipulate data. Now, instead of just working with L1, what I can do is I can move the cursor on the calculator screen up. Now you notice L1 is highlighted, and then to the right, so I have list 2 highlighted. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see L2 is equal to, and then it's blank. So we're going to have the calculator add 1 to each value in list 1. So I'm going to tell it list 1, so that would be second and the number 1 key, and then plus 1. And then I hit enter, and then it is added 1 to each value in the second list. Okay, so now I want to run sample statistics on that second list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Stat menu, and this time I'm going to calculate. Okay, remember, I'm going to arrow over to my calculate menu, one variable statistics on the second list. Okay, so I need to tell the calculator second L2. Okay, and then hit enter. Okay, so you're going to get a new set of statistics. Again, X bar is the sample mean, that first one shown. So the new sample mean is going to be 42.69, and the sample standard deviation for that data set is 5.99. Okay, now part C says each employee in the sample takes a pay cut of $2,000 from their original salary. Find the sample mean and sample standard deviation for the revised data set. So again, instead of entering all 13 of those values with 2 subtracted from each value, I'm going to have the calculator do that for me. So I'm going to go back to my Stat menu, and I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to move my cursor up and over so that list 3 is highlighted, and I'm going to tell the calculator to take every value in list 1 and subtract 2 from it. Okay, so I'm going to go second 1, and then I'm going to subtract 2, okay, because I'm subtracting $2,000 from each value in that data set. Okay, now I'm going to run one variable statistics on the third list. So I'm going to go, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm not going to use my shift or my second key. I apologize for that. Instead, I'm going to hit stat. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, let me quit out of there. Okay, I'm going to hit stat, and I'm going to arrow over to calculate, and I'm going to run one variable statistics, and this time I'm going to run it on list 3. So I'm going to go second L3 and then hit enter. Now I'll have new sample statistics for the new data set I've created. So the sample mean this time is 39.69, or that's in thousands of dollars, and the sample standard deviation has remained the same at 5.99. So that should give you a hint as to how to answer part D. Okay, so what do you conclude from parts A, B, and C? Well, clearly the standard deviation has remained the same, okay, but that sample mean has changed. That won't be the case for the standard deviation if we were to multiply each value in the original data set. Okay, the sampled standard deviation would be affected in that case, but if we are simply adding or subtracting from the original data set, your sample standard deviation will not be affected. Okay, one more thing I want to show you is how to put data in order. Okay, so if you wanted to find your quartiles by hand, you could go ahead and have the calculator order your data set for you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my stat menu, and under edit, choice 2 is sort ascending. Okay, so it's going to sort my original data from smallest to largest. Okay, so I'm going to choose 2. Now I need to tell it what list I want it to sort, so I want to sort the original data set, so I'm going to sort list 1, and I'm going to close parentheses. Okay, and once I hit enter, the screen will say done. So to view your new data set put in order, you need to go back to your stat menu and choose edit, and you'll see that list 1 is the same data set, but now all of the values are put in order.